He was our number one target. He made the most sense for our ball club. People can look around, obviously there's Aaron Judge and things like that, a whole bunch of starting pitchers, some shortstops, but what we needed was Jose Abreu. So he was our number one choice, and we got a meeting with him in Miami, so I got on a plane.
That's Astros Hall of Fame first baseman Jeff Bagwell at an interesting press conference yesterday. And the reason I said the Jim Crane haters should be furious about yesterday is that Jim Crane essentially flexed in front of everyone who has been calling him out, myself included, for Jeff Bagwell, for Reggie Jackson being involved in the thought process machine that the Astros now have without a general manager as they approach this offseason and offseasons going forward, and have approached, I guess, just roster construction as a whole over the last couple of years. Jim Crane publicly endorsed Jeff Bagwell yesterday by giving Jeff Bagwell essentially his own little side press conference after the introductory press conference that Crane and Jose Abreu had. And look, we'll see how this pans out. I have lots of doubts and lots of skepticism finding out that Jim Crane's most trusted advisor in that Jeff Passan piece that came out a couple of weeks ago is Jeff Bagwell. And I think everybody should have some healthy skepticism here. There's nothing wrong with being skeptical. I would love for Jeff Bagwell to prove to everybody that, man, the guy actually knows what he is doing and what he's talking about. But yesterday, Jim Crane was essentially flexing, yeah, Jeff Bagwell's my guy, and I don't care what you guys say. I don't care what you guys think. Gave him his own little side press conference. So what did Jeff Bagwell have to say? First off, he was asked about what his current role with the Astros is. Here was his answer when asked that question.
I do the same thing. I bother Jim nonstop, so I think he's tired of me, but I'm just a voice of how I see baseball and how I see the other things in baseball that just aren't numbers. Numbers are important, don't get me wrong, but there's other things that matter, and that's part of the reason why Jose is a perfect fit.
So, interesting that that's what we got out of Jeff Bagwell. First off, just talking about the analytical side of things and making sure that, yeah, we need to have a baseball eye, baseball hands on the actual operation itself. It really feels like they're going out of their way to say, we're not just analytics. And you know what? There's a lot of people that's going to play to. I would say that a couple of years ago that would have played to me. But the thing is, analytics is just another word for information. And I think it gets thrown out essentially as this just gross buzzword, and people have such strong reactions whenever they hear it, specifically those who follow football first and foremost. But I think there's a lot of other people out there who say, yeah, I don't like that analytics are changing the game that I grew up watching, and the way that it's played, the way that it's approached, the way that rosters are built because of it, at least specifically in baseball. But also interesting hearing in the first little clip there, Bagwell saying, I am just constantly talking to Jim Crane. And I asked this before when we found out about Bagwell's, I guess, role, which is Jim Crane's trusted voice. It sounds like Jeff Bagwell could also be the squeaky wheel. He's got a lot of takes. He and Jim Crane are boys, and Jeff is just consistently texting him over and over and over again. Hey, this is what I think. Hey, this is what I think. And if you're Jim Crane, are you going to say, okay, yeah, sure. I would have a hard time doing it myself, I think, if I were in Jim Crane's shoes. But if I'm Jock Jim Crane, who we've talked about before, a guy who pitched back in the day in college, was actually pretty good as a pitcher in college. If I'm Jock Jim Crane and Jeff Bagwell's here, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, we're going to send Jeff Bagwell down to Miami. Hey, Furcus, you got Bagwell's bags? You better carry him. Yeah, you're going to show up for the meeting, but you're just going to take notes. You're going to watch the big boys play. Yeah, that's right. Then afterwards, you're going to transcribe what went down in the meeting. Well, Jim Crane and Jeff Bagwell, yeah, I'm speaking about myself in the third person. Well, we go get beers. Anyway, back to Jeff Bagwell, who had a press conference and for the first time seemed to be acknowledged and I also think shown off by Jim Crane as a part of the Astros brain trust. He said that he will do whatever Jim Crane asks him to do, but he won't be GM.
I want to do whatever Jim needs me to do. I'm not pushing myself to do anything. I know I'm involved. I know I enjoy talking the game of baseball, and I certainly enjoy talking about us and how we can get better.
If Jim asked you to be the GM, you would want to do that?
I have no idea. That's not really a thought of mine right now. We got enough stuff going on right now. Things are working okay right now, so we'll figure that out when it's time.
Would you interview?
No, I would not interview.
That's not really a denial right there by Bagwell, at least at first when you hear those clips, because hey, that's not on my thought process right now. I don't know. I wonder if Jim Crane were to sit down with Bagwell and if they had a longer conversation, if he would change his mind based off of what you heard right there. Anyway, I think hearing Bagwell there, he will do whatever Jim wants him to do. Hearing that is one thing, but again, I go back to what you heard a little bit earlier. To me, it sounds like Bagwell is offering lots of either insight or takes to Jim Crane, and Crane has been open to them. What would Crane ask Bagwell to do? You saw, obviously, as I said just a second ago, he sent Bill Furcus and Bagwell down to Miami to meet with Abreu at his home to close that deal. Is it just that? I really wonder what else Crane would be asking Bagwell to do. Maybe it's for some confirmation with some of the moves that he's maybe thinking about making now that Crane seems to have a much more active role in actually building this team. Bagwell, who I really do think that Crane showed him off at yesterday's press conference, described how he's feeling in this new active role that he has as part of the Astros brain trust.
I mean, it's great. I enjoy it. It keeps my mind going. There's not a lot of things I know in life, but one of them is baseball. So if I can give what I know about what it's like to play on the field, to be in certain situations, as well as being in the clubhouse, and even in life. I made enough mistakes in life, so I can help there too. But I love being a part of this. I love the Astros, and I just want to see us win.
You hear that one, and that's where I don't have an issue with him being involved. It's those other things. I mean, I think that's how everyone should feel about a guy who's one of the best players in this franchise's history being back in the organization. It is cool, but I only want him involved in those kind of capacities, at least right now. I guess I could change my mind over the years, but that's where I'm at right now.
I think it is the fact that they don't have a GM that makes Jeff Bagwell's role, or at least it seems like Jeff Bagwell has soaked up some of those responsibilities that when they do hire a GM, you hope, all right, thanks, Jeff, for the steady hand through the 2022 offseason. Now let's go back to having a real GM make decisions.
But, once you've opened the door.
He said he doesn't want to be GM.
Or did he say he didn't want to interview for being the GM? See, there's multiple ways you could look at that. Darkside J on the Twitch was like, he said he didn't want to interview. I mean, would you? I'm Jeff bleeping Bagwell.
That's my interview.
Hey, Furcus, you're going to do my job for me, okay? Just Bagwell and Jim Crane badgering poor Bill Furcus. I don't know why we turned Bill Furcus into this nerd who's got glasses on and pimples and
I think it's because we don't know
an abacus.
We don't know a name of another person involved with the Astros, like the other assistant GMs.
Well, we don't even know who's officially who's the lead assistant GM. Like who's the assistant GM, who's assistant to the GM, and who's the assistant GM.
The assistant to the assistant GM.
Yeah, there's probably a power structure there. There are a couple other guys too. Their names are eluding me right now because it's hard to think about anybody else when Bagwell is the one that is being interviewed. It wasn't like they brought Bill Furcus up. It wasn't like they brought any of these other guys up. They brought out Jeff Bagwell yesterday. One more time. This is Jim Crane essentially flexing on everybody who's doubting him for having Jeff Bagwell in his corner. I suppose Reggie Jackson was maybe a little bit more of a dubious idea to roll him out. I didn't mean to say roll him out and from that perspective. I'm just saying Reggie Jackson maybe is not the one that you want to be weighing in on transactions like this, especially if he wasn't necessarily involved. But he's supposedly involved in this operation. This is the quote that got everybody mad, at least those in the baseball industry. And there's a lot of people in the baseball industry that are pissed at the Astros because they think it's a toxic work environment and that the way that James Click was treated by Jim Crane was bad. Bagwell was asked if the Astros got too analytically driven under James Click.
Personally, for me, yes. I just think that there are certain things that go on that the numbers can't explain. Because this game is played by humans, man. It's not played by computers. And there's a lot of things that go on. Stuff that's not in between, in those doors over there or on the field. There's stuff that goes on at home. A lot of things that can happen throughout a year that mean something, and it affects players in certain ways. And being able to know that, and being able to, that's what Dusty does so great, is he knows his players so well on and off the field, which makes it a lot easier for him to manage because he has the communication with the guys and understands.
He's not wrong, right? He's not wrong there. There are lots of other things that go into baseball other than the information that a general manager might be presenting to a manager and saying, hey, this is why your lineup is going to be X, Y, or Z on a given night. But did you not hear Bagwell kind of submarine his value at the very end? That's what Dusty Baker's so great at. Baker does have I think, we have to say it now, pretty damn good feel for what works and what doesn't work. And he had not winning a World Series held against him for such a long time. He finally has it won. And now there aren't going to be a lot of people challenging him, especially after the way that I think he managed the bullpen in particular this postseason. Still questions about Ryan Stanek, but I thought they did a damn good job on that front. The lineup maybe is the one that you have questions about. But Jeff Bagwell is going to be a big part of this Astros organization going forward, and Jim Crane just rubbed it in your face with that press conference yesterday.